This is The Guardian.
Hello, I'm Faye Carruthers and welcome to The Guardian Women's Football Weekly. We have our FA Cup finalists. Chelsea secured their place with a dramatic win over Liverpool, and defending champions Manchester United knocked out rivals City to set up a Wembley showdown. We'll wrap up some of the FA Women's National League stories and head to Canada to find out more about the new Northern Super League. All of that, plus we'll take your questions, and that's today's Guardian Women's Football Weekly. Well, we have a mini panel today. We're doing things slightly differently today on the Guardian Women's Football Weekly. But Suzy, Wrack, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
That's way more cheerful than I feel inside at this time of the morning.
Well, I know. It's I hear you. I hear you. Neither of us are morning people. I wonder if Jamie Spangher is a morning person. Hello.
Hey Faye, I'm not too bad. Not the biggest morning person in the world, but yeah, you know what? I'm feeling good. I'm ready. I'm excited to talk about some football.
OK, we'll just get ourselves giddy pants like we normally are for evening records instead, shall we? By the way, we're going to speak to Canadian journalist Har Johal later in the pod. But first of all, we're going to focus on the Adobe Women's FA Cup. Domestic football returned this weekend. A fortnight away it's had because of the international break. But the last stretch of the season with trophies at stake, 2 semi-finals to find out who's heading to Wembley on Sunday the 18th of May to fight for the FA Cup. And Chelsea were the first to book their spot. They're chasing down a 6th FA Cup trophy, and they beat Liverpool in dramatic fashion at Kingsmeadow on Saturday, keeping their hopes of a quadruple alive. I can't believe we're still using the Q word. That's quite amazing. It finished Chelsea 2, Liverpool 1. They love a bit of added time drama, Chelsea, don't they? Olivia Smith had put Liverpool into a shock lead, but Chelsea responded. Erin Cuthbert levelled the score with the final kick of the first half before a 94th minute header from a player who's had quite a week, Aggie Beever-Jones, which ended up breaking Liverpool hearts. Suzy, we've talked about the mentality of this Chelsea team so many times, and Sonia Bampastor talked about how she told her side to just stay patient, stick to their principles, and there we go, paid off again, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the mentality has been the piece that has followed through from Emma Hayes' tenure, right? Like, it's something that they've had for a long time. It's so ingrained into the club and the players and the staff. Like, they don't switch off, they don't give up. I remember speaking to Megan Rapinoe around, maybe it was around the 2019 World Cup, it must have been. And she said she just never ever believed that they would lose, ever. And I feel like Chelsea have a similar mentality in that no matter how many they could be losing by, they will never believe they're losing the game, but they will always believe they're going to come back into it in some way. And it feels like they've got that kind of mentality that the heads never really bow. I don't know how you create that and how you build that. I bet that's something that a lot of managers kind of look at and are very, very jealous of. But yeah, they've got this just incredible way of maintaining their focus, not panicking and sticking to the game plan. It'd be interesting to see, kind of how it works when they're not necessarily playing particularly well against a team like Barcelona, obviously, coming up, or like some of the more tricky games towards the end of the season. They've got those kind of things are going to be interesting because, it's far easier to do that when you're not playing particularly well against a team like Liverpool than it is against, say, champions of Europe back-to-back.
Yeah, it's not always translated into Europe, has it? That's for sure. They were under pressure, Jamie. If we take what Suzy said there, they could have been 2-0 down because Liverpool had the chances, and it looked like they were playing their perfect game plan, but the second half was different in the end.
Yeah, I think we need to give Liverpool their flowers for that opening 45 minutes because Chelsea didn't get a real shot off. They couldn't create chances. They couldn't get past Amber Whiteley's game plan. So I think as a Liverpool player and in a squad, you'd be proud of that effort because they really did hold it off. But then it comes down to squad depth, right? We've spoken about this so many times. When Chelsea have that plethora of talent coming off the bench. We know how good Sonia Bonpastor is at correcting at halftime. It's so hard to hold a team like that back. And I think football does come down to a bit of luck. Like you said, they could have been 2-0 up. They hit the bar. So it's all about luck in the end. But I think Amber Whiteley and her squad can walk away from this game and they can say, look, our hearts are broken. It's very hard. There was a ticket to Wembley right there in front of them and it was closing in. But they can walk away and they can say, hey, that's a very good game. That we've seen what they've done under Amber Whiteley. They've beaten Arsenal. They've then gone and beaten Man United 3-1 at Anfield and a narrow loss to Aston Villa, which they'll be absolutely kicking themselves about as well. However, this is a team that is showing real prospect. And I think Olivia Smith, again, what a young star. She's absolutely propping up this team right now. They need to do their best to hold on to her in the summer. But I think Liverpool can pat themselves on the back for that effort because I thought they played very, very well to nullify Chelsea's threats.
Yeah, what's she going to take from this game, Suzy? And actually, mentioning Olivia Smith there, is she going to, in hindsight, which is a wonderful thing, of course, regret taking Olivia Smith off and moving to 3 at the back with 2 minutes in injury time to go?
It's a strong word, isn't it? Like regret. Like, I think if in an ideal world you would have her on the pitch for the entire game plus added time, like because she is a constant threat. She is, when legs are tiring, the pace that is going to sort of help you out of trouble, both in terms of like just giving you that little bit longer on the ball as well as providing a goal threat. That said, she's only just returned from injury herself. She's not played for 3 weeks. So like whether she could play on is the big question, right? Like who knows what her fitness was like going into the game. She probably wasn't ready for 90 minutes. They probably left her on, I imagine, longer than they had planned to initially because, when you're coming back after 3 weeks out, you're kind of going to not necessarily be able to play for 90. So in that sense, in the context of, kind of the balance of looking after her and maintaining the threat they have, it's the problem of a team that doesn't have much threat, right? Like they basically need more players and the club aren't backing them. And I feel like every single pod we should be hammering the fact that the runaway Premier League champions are not backing their women's team to the extent of which that they can like maintain a challenge across 90 minutes in a game like that, right? Like imagine if they had 1 or 2 other forwards on the bench that were able to come on and impact that game instead of having the dilemma of whether you take off a 3-week absent Olivia Smith because she has been absent for 3 weeks and may not be fit, or keep your only sort of real threat on the pitch. Like that's the issue for me. Like that's like what Amber Whiteley is doing is showing what would be possible if they were properly backed. That's what's gutting.
Well, I mean that's a key job to do though, isn't it? Highlight it, get the media talking about it, get the fans in uproar about it. This is the way that change happens. It's just painful that it has to happen this way. And no disrespect to Chelsea, I'm a complete neutral, as you know. They're the kind of teams I want to see at Wembley. Not that it's made any difference to Manchester United, by the way, who won it last year. But you know what I mean. That is the kind of thing that is going to get more eyeballs on and start shaking the hierarchy up a little bit. Going back to the game, Jamie, before I go on a rant, the timing of Chelsea's goals are so important. Erin Cuthbert's goal was actually their first shot on target in the match. Deep in first half injury time, and obviously Liverpool go in with their heads down to the dressing room and Chelsea have their tails up. It just felt like it changed the halftime messaging completely.
100%. I think that's a main takeaway from this game is Erin Cuthbert in the recent weeks has just come up clutch for Chelsea so many times. We obviously saw her against Man City at the Etihad. She gets that late winner. She's a player you want playing for you when you're in those hard and tough moments. And I think as soon as that happens, Liverpool don't have the mentality to turn that game around. And I don't think that's any fault to Amber Whiteley. I think it's going exactly back to what Suzy said. The depth isn't there, right? Like they're not going to be able to look at a team like Chelsea, look at their bench and say, we can turn this around no matter what. It takes a lot of mentality and miracle to be able to do that. And I think it also is a testament to how Chelsea's been winning games recently, because I think we always look at a team like Chelsea and we say, okay, that's what champions do. They win it late, they get in the late winner, but their results haven't been the most convincing. And I think it will be interesting to see how they play against Barcelona this weekend, because it's a late win against Liverpool. They've just beaten Man City 2-1 as well. Crystal Palace they won 1-0 against. They drew against Brighton. They just beat Everton 2-1. This is all in recent months as well. So seems like they're kind of scraping results, and that's to no detriment of them, because they're running away with the league right now, and that's what champions do, right? But I think it's going to be a test to see if they can, show that same mentality against a team with Barcelona, who they've got players like, Eva Payor, they've got Claudia Pina coming off the bench. Like, that's a plethora of talent. So I think there's a little bit of vulnerability there to exploit in Chelsea, because they've been really clinching late victories recently, and I think Liverpool just weren't the team to be able to capitalise on that.
Before we move on to the second game, we've got to talk about Aggie Beever-Jones. Suzy, what a week for her. First Lionesses senior goal, and she's a Chelsea kid with a scoring the goal to send her team to Wembley. It's her 11th goal in all competitions this season. Pretty good week for her, isn't it?
Yeah, not bad.
If Carlsberg did weeks. Hope that's not an advert. I don't drink beer.
Other cold alcoholic beverages are available. Yeah,
or wine.
It was. She deserves it, because she's such a hard-working player, and she's really bided her time. And people have been calling her to get a chance in an England shirt for a while. And she's kind of had very, very few minutes and sort of almost been a little bit overlooked, I would say, even when she's been in the squad. I think people have sort of been a little bit confused by why she's been sort of left on the bench at times. So to see her come on and be so impactful in Bristol, which also was a club that she, like Bristol City, she was on loan at a while back. So a personal affinity to the city and the club where England were playing as well. To see her come on and be so impactful and score her first goal for England after such a strong season for Chelsea, I think was really, really special, and you could tell from her reaction as well. Also, quite lovely that she spent more time, I think, afterwards talking about how happy she was for Kira Walsh than she was for herself. Obviously, her having beaten Kira to a goal, in terms of number of caps, with it taking 83 for Kira to reach her first England goal. So yeah, that was quite sweet too. But yeah, super talented, and it's only going to do really, really well for Chelsea going into the back end of the season, that she's sort of brimming with confidence and has that kind of wave to ride on.
Yeah, without a doubt. By the way, Sonia Bonpastor after this said that she thinks that her best position's eventually going to be a 10. So that's interesting. Barcelona away in the Champions League is next. Oh, that'd be good, wouldn't it? That'd be like the cherry or the sprinkles on top of an iced cake if she could score away at Barcelona in the Champions League as well. Right, so Chelsea secured their spot on Saturday. So then it was over to Manchester to find out who they'd be facing. City hosted United at the Joy Stadium, and it was Mark Skinner's side who kept their defence alive. A solid victory in the end over their close neighbours. It finished Manchester City 0, Manchester United 2, thanks to first half goals from Celine Bizet and Grace Clinton. Felt like quite a mature performance, actually, this one, Suzy. Their third successive FA Cup final, which is really impressive. What did you make of their performance?
Yeah, it was mature. It's mature. It's really composed, and they just went to work. I think that was what was most standout for me, is they were really, really well organised, held their shape really well, and obviously they were playing such an incredibly depleted and injury hit Man City side that's all they needed to do to a certain extent. I don't really think we saw them at their absolute fluid best, because they didn't need to be. They just needed to kind of stick to the game plan, follow the rules. It didn't have to be particularly kind of sparkling or special, because City are just so kind of beleaguered at the moment that it's almost a little bit easy to play them at this time. And I think we've seen this fixture a lot of times, and I've always thought that Man United have had a little bit of a struggle even when they've been on top, with the mental side of this tie. And I think that was like completely gone, which I thought was quite interesting. Whether that sort of maintains, when I say maintains, I mean sort of like the gap that like is presented, it's not making sense here, but the gap that's presented sort of by the history of the clubs, obviously City having a much longer and richer history relative to Man United. And I think that's been a little bit of a weight on their shoulder. That now that's gone, it'll be interesting to see whether it returns when they're in better shape next season, which you would assume that they will be. But yeah, it was a really interesting game, and I thought they looked really good. The fact that they've had so few injuries and have been able to stay so consistent across the season, like, really shows, the way they play is so intuitive now. It's really nice to see.
We'll talk about City's injuries in a second, Jamie, but Suzy mentioned how improved Manchester United are, and you have to look at Celine Bizet actually for the impact that she's made since joining in the summer. She's kind of got to be considered, surely, one of the signings of the season, you'd think. What is it that she brings to this United team?
Yeah, I think she's right up there with signings of the season, Faye. I think she's been incredible. She was great at Spurs last season. She was really instrumental in their FA Cup run as well. And I think it was 4 goals and assists in the league. And she's already surpassed that with so many, 4 games to go in the WSL for Manchester United. She's just brought her game to a new level. I think the way that she's so fluid with the ball at her feet is so exciting to watch. It's so pleasing. And she brings this kind of attacking dimension that maybe they haven't had through players like Leah Galton or Rachel Williams, who are just more like very, very direct kind of wingers. And Celine Bizet kind of brings this flair. But I think something that really goes overlooked in her game style is her defensive attributes. Her ability to drop back and recover the ball in transition is so, so, so priceless to Manchester United. The way that she comes back, she collects the ball when she loses it, or even she drops back and helps out Jade Riviere in the right channel. That has allowed Manchester United to be so much more fluid this season. I think that Celine doesn't get her flowers enough for how she does that, because it allows Grace Clinton to push up into the higher role, allows Ella Toon to flute up, and then Mia Zawa doesn't have to play a defensive role. So I think she's the complete player. And the fact that they got her for $60,000 is an absolute bargain. Like, Manchester United's recruitment team will be patting themselves on the back, and Spurs will be kicking themselves, because that is a signing. And I think she's just the complete forward. She's helping them in every area of the pitch, not just the final box. And she deserved that goal. What a finish. Like, the fact she's turned, she's put that into the side netting, good on her, because yeah, she's just so exciting and thrilling to watch, isn't she?
You're going to have to go to the florist. You've given a couple of people flowers today. Look, City did improve in the second half, Suzy, didn't they? They put United's goal under more pressure. But let's talk about that incredible double save from Fallon Joyce. She's had a brilliant impact this season as well, and tough for her as well, emerging out of Mary Earp's shadow following her move.
Yeah, I mean, Mary Earps was big shoes to fill, right? But there were signs that Fallon Joyce was capable of filling them before she even joined Man United. Like, she was a really highly rated goalkeeper, and there were sort of rumblings that they really had a talent on their hands, and it was a sort of a matter of time before she either, started to see some minutes ahead of Earps, or, one of them would have to move. So it's great to see her doing so well. She also just comes across so brilliantly. She's like marine biologist and, doing classes with kids on the ocean and things like that. It's and science. It's just, she's just really cool, and then just supremely talented. It was interesting that she got her first minutes for the US Women's national team, and that Emma Hayes said she wanted to see a little bit more from her distribution wise and things like that. Mark Skinner said it afterwards, and I tend to agree with him, that she has the potential to be the world's best. Like, I genuinely think she is that good, and it's really exciting to see her doing so well there. Obviously they've got such a strong defensive record in the league, and she's a very, very big part of that.
I do hate it when managers put that kind of pressure on, but I get it.
But she is.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, it's fact. Sometimes they say it, and you think, well, you're actually talking a load of bollocks, right? Like, that's not actually true. But in this case, I don't think it is necessarily pressure on her to reach that height, because it's so obvious that like she is, and I think there is a little bit of a gap there. You know, obviously Mary Earps has been back-to-back goalkeeper of the year and stuff. Like, she's not going to be around forever. You know, we'll move past her peak at some point. Hannah Hampton is, you know, kind of seemingly being favoured at England's level. So there's a gap opening up, and not necessarily now, but a couple of years she will be filling that gap because she does have that quality.
Obviously, Manchester City looking at the minute to try and close the gap on the top three and get themselves Champions League football, but they are really injury hit at the minute. They've got Everton on Sunday. Nick Cushing said, "My message this week is to go and perform for our fans. We need to strip it back to basics. We have to show more desire. This team is a winning team, and we have to make sure that every person and process is focused around the direction of winning. And at the moment, we're in a position that we shouldn't be in." The caveat to that is, you know, lots of big injuries. Viv Miedemar, Jill Roord added to their list of casualties over the international break. Mary Fowler as well suffered a worrying-looking knee problem in the first half of this game. Where does it leave their season, Jamie? They're out of the running for silverware on all fronts, 7 points off the Champions League spots. It feels like they need a little bit of a rebuild this summer.
Yeah, I think Manchester City right now, it is a really, really tough place to be in. And it's hard because I actually sympathise with them. I really think they're in a hard spot. If I was looking at the run-in right now in the WSL and like getting rid of those injuries, if they had a fully fit squad, Manchester United had a fully fit squad, I'd say they can do it. They can easily close that gap. United have a really hard run-in. They've got Chelsea, Arsenal, they're playing Man City. They've got West Ham, who are a rebuilt team. Ryan Skinner's got them playing really high-quality football. So I think in a perfect world, they'd be able to do it. But right now, their squad is depleted. Like, it is so depleted. And I think it comes in two brackets, right? It comes in the bracket of there's unluck, right? Alana Kennedy leaves in the winter. They sign Rebecca Knack from Rosengard. She's a proven centre-back. She does her hamstring. She's out. But then again, they've got this plethora of talent in the forward line, and they go and sign Carolyn on a really high wage when they probably don't need her. Like, she's an exceptional player. NWSL MVP. She's a very high-quality player. Anyone wants her, but you don't need her. You need defensive depth. You need someone to back up Yui Hasegawa, because God forbid if Hasegawa gets injured, I don't know who's going to play in the six for City. So it's kind of like, are they masters of their own downfall right now? Is their recruitment in the right place? Because, you know, we saw what they did 2 summers ago. They just brought in Jill Roord when they needed more reinforcement. They brought in a Viviana Miedema, who's been very injury prone. We've seen that. She's missed a lot of football this season. So I think for Man City right now, I don't know if it's really considerable for them to be able to look at that top 3 and say, we can get Champions League. I think it's just as you said, Faye. They come into the summer, they say, all right, we've either got to hire a new physio because our list is far too long, or we need to look at reinforcing that back line, the defence. They don't have enough options. Alex Greenwood's gotten injured, and I think Laia Alexandria is not been performing nearly as well as we thought she would without Alex Greenwood. I think Greenwood's clearly the glue. So right now for City, it's about assessing, okay, where's the problem? Because there is a problem. I feel bad for Nick Cushing, and I feel bad for the players, because it feels like they've thrown him in this situation and said, all right, before the League Cup final, go fix everything, go win the League Cup final, and then go play Chelsea 3 more additional times and see what you can do. And it feels like they were betting on a miracle. That was never going to happen with that squad talent. And I just think they needed to act like they were doing something. So they've thrown their players and their manager in the deep end. And I really do feel bad for them, because I think Cushing, he coached a win in that cup final, and ever since then he's had hardly anyone to play with. So it'll be interesting to see how this season pans out, but they need to do some thorough work in the summer.
Just finally, Suzy, on the FA Cup, looking ahead to Wembley, Mark Skinner said his side wanted revenge for their defeat to Chelsea in the 2023 FA Cup final. Are this team better equipped this time round? I mean, they've won it since then, I suppose, to deal with the occasion and the opposition.
Well, definitely to deal with the occasion, in that they know what it takes to win, like you say, and they've been there, done it. It's their 3rd year at Wembley. There's no they can't be overawed by that anymore to a certain extent. Although Wembley is Wembley. Yeah, Chelsea are a difficult beast. I think they still burn with a lot of rage at themselves as much as anything for the way they won the FA Cup last season and then lost so dramatically to Chelsea in the league on the final day of the season at Old Trafford, and then had to parade their FA Cup trophy around the pitch after their heavy defeat. whilst Chelsea was celebrating their title victory in the corner, like with the league trophy. Like, I think all of the memory of that still very much haunts them. Whether that sees them fold in despair or, like, you know, kind of come out all guns blazing and kind of really focused and organised, like, we'll see in the final. But I do think they're in better shape. I think that it's, you know, compared to the team that played Chelsea a couple of seasons ago, it's you know, a much stronger squad, I would say, a much more balanced squad. There's a little bit of depth there. They've rotated a little bit more than they have in the past few seasons, and then you add in that Chelsea, you know, will have had a busy season and you know, could potentially still be in the Champions League at that stage as well, then, you know, it's getting complicated. Either Chelsea could be in a Champions League final, or they could have, like, Champions League heartbreak behind them and real disappointment. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see, like, how fine the margin is in that game.
Yeah, without a doubt. Looking forward to it. 18th of May. At Wembley, the showpiece, Chelsea against Manchester United. Right, the FA Women's National League is drawing to a close. There are a couple more champions decided on Sunday. So Ipswich Town are FA Women's National League Southern Premier winners in all but name. Basically, hashtag United would need a 37-goal swing on the final day, which I don't think is going to happen. So it looks like the Tractor Girls are going to be playing in the Barclays Championship next season. Well done to them. We will confirm it properly next week. There's nothing worse than crowning a champion and then it not happening. But I'm sure that's not going to happen. Loughborough Lightning secured the FA Women's National League Division 1 Midlands title with a game to spare. That's thanks to a 5-0 victory over Sutton Coldfield. And Real Bedford were crowned champions of the Division 1 South East with an 11-1 win over London Seaward. Both are unbeaten in the league this campaign, and both have secured promotion to the FA Women's National League Premier. So well done to them. And Ipswich Town, I really hope I've not jinxed you, bearing in mind my previous track record, as Jamie knows very well, as a Matildas fan. Jamie, we have Har Johal talking all things Canada and their new domestic league coming up. So we will let you go back to bed if you like. Lovely to see you.
Lovely to see you guys. Might go get an extra 30 minutes of sleep, can't lie. Have a great day,
oh my
guys.
God. So jealous. Enjoy that. See you later. Right, that's it for part 1. In part 2, we'll talk to Har Johal as Canada's first ever professional league, the Northern Super League, gets underway. Welcome back to part 2 of the Guardian Women's Football Weekly. So it's the start of a new dawn in Canada this week as the hotly anticipated Northern Super League gets underway. Canada's first ever professional women's football league kicks off in BC Place on Wednesday evening. That's Thursday morning UK time. Vancouver Rise are going to be hosting Calgary Wild. I hope I've pronounced that right. We'll find out from Canadian journalist Har Johal from Vancouver, who's with us this morning. Well, morning our time, night time your time, Har. It's getting confusing now. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much for having me on. Yes, Vancouver Rise FC are going to be taking on Calgary Wild FC on Wednesday night at BC Place. The first match in the Northern Super League, a long time coming, and there will be a women's professional soccer league in Canada finally. And so there's a lot of anticipation. A crowd of 12,000 fans is expected. And it's the first of 2 matches this week. Toronto and Montreal will play at BMO Field on Saturday. So everyone's really excited. There's a big media event coming up as well. So it's finally happening. It's here, and the buzz is off the charts.
Oh, I can absolutely imagine. What is this new league going to do in terms of helping Canada develop on the international stage in Canadian football?
It provides an opportunity for players in Canada to play at home. Previously, they would have had to go abroad, maybe play in England and Europe or the NWSL. But now you have an opportunity after university. You can play in Canada at one of the 6 teams that's going to be in the NSL. So there's a lot of opportunities, and not just for Canadians as well. You have internationals from all over the world that are playing in this league that have an opportunity, and it's going to be fantastic. It's a great league to get going in Canada, and everyone's really excited.
Hey Har, talk to us about how this project came to life. It's the brainchild of former Canadian international Diane Matheson, who seems to have really taken it upon herself to try and progress the women's game domestically since her retirement.
Yeah, Matheson is the founder. She's the chief growth officer, so she's all over the league. It was her, idea. She initiated a lot. She kicked down a lot of doors when people were saying there's too much, it's not possible, stadiums, sponsorship, players, licensing. She's been involved at every step, and this league does not get done. It does not get created if Diana Matheson is not spearheading everything and making sure every box is checked and everything is getting done. Now, there's still lots of logistics, lots of happenings. I don't know that they have a trophy yet at the end of the season, so they're still kind of building the plane while they're flying it, but this is a great first step. It's great to have the inaugural season underway on Wednesday. 6 teams, as I mentioned. They want to expand to 8 teams by 2027, and Matheson would like the league to be one of the top 5 leagues in the world. So there's lots of ambition, and they're hoping to get off to a great start.
I love that kind of ambition, and you expect that from someone who's previously said that being a women's soccer player in Canada is like trying to cross Niagara Falls on a tightrope. It's been difficult for sure, but she's really respected, isn't she, in many quarters. How important is it to have someone like that as the figurehead at the heart of it?
I think it's important because this is someone that knows what they're doing. They've played in leagues as well. They've played at the highest level. They know what players need to succeed, what makes a successful environment. It's not just Diana Matheson. There's a lot of other former Canadian internationals that are involved in various parts of the league. Here in Vancouver, Christine Sinclair is part owner of the Vancouver Rise. Stephanie Labbe is the sporting director. She's on mat leave, so not fully involved right now. And you have Erin McLeod playing for Halifax, Desiree Scott playing in Ottawa. So it's a lot of Canadian names that fans would maybe recognize as well.
6 teams, you said. So who have we got here? You mentioned some of them. Vancouver Rise, Calgary Wild, which I can now pronounce properly because you corrected me, Montreal Roses, Ottawa Rapid, AFC Toronto, and Halifax Tides. This is going to be tougher, but how are they all shaping up? You've mentioned some of the players associated with Canada, but who do we need to be keeping an eye on particularly?
Vancouver, of course, and I'm not just saying that because I'm a Vancouverite. I'm from Vancouver. If you look at the rosters and the way these teams have been constructed, a lot of the teams maybe are going with the younger youth movement and getting players that are maybe going to show growth and development, where here in Vancouver, there's lots of players that have experience, that have played in top flight leagues. Quinn plays for Vancouver. Nikki Stanton played in Seattle. She is on the team here. Jasmine Spencer, also NWSL. Shannon Wohler is the captain, and she played for the Canadian women's national team. So there's lots of veterans on the Vancouver team, and so people are kind of maybe saying maybe they have the edge because they have a lot of experience, but you have to go and win the games. It's not just about getting the roster with the most experience. Each team will play 25 games, 4 make the playoffs, semifinals, and then the final 2 legs. There's a salary cap of 1.6 million Canadian dollars. And what I find unique is there is a secondary salary cap the league has for housing and transport, because we know the cost of living is going higher up everywhere. And so that really helps with housing and making sure players can get to training and matches. So that's a big part of what the league is doing.
Wow, that's absolutely massive. We'll talk about the salary cap in a minute, but I know Suzy's got a question on investment and trying to make the league more sustainable.
Yeah, obviously, investment is needed for a league to be sustainable. The Bank of Montreal was announced as a high-profile commercial partner a few days ago, and then you add that to the broadcast deal with ESPN. How important is that interest and visibility? And are we seeing signs that other entities are interested as well?
Yeah, the sponsorships are huge because, as Matheson was talking the other day, they think there's going to be deficits for the first few years of the league. So getting DoorDash, BMO, having an airline sponsor, getting all these agencies involved, it's a huge plan because you need to be able to offset those losses. And so getting media rights deals in place as well, it's a big factor. And so I think Matheson has played an integral part with that.
The salary cap that you mentioned, that means that there's limits, aren't there, to the number of foreign players that teams can sign. What are those limits, first of all? And for our audience not based in Canada, can you explain how that helps in terms of the league's competitiveness and sustainability? And do you think it will mean, there's 3 questions in this, sorry, do you think it will mean actually that it could take longer to establish because of that?
I believe it's 5. I will have to double check on international players, but having, limiting that so then there's more opportunities for Canadians, it's huge. And so I think, while this is a league that provides an opportunity for all athletes, making sure Canadians have access to that and being able to play, I think it will help with sustainability and competitiveness because they want to have close competitive games. They don't want to have huge blowouts. You don't really want to have maybe a Manchester City team where, teams are just getting demolished every week. So they want to have close games. They want it to be engaged and they want to have fans interested. The minimum salary is $50,000, so they have a bottom as well. So they're kind of, putting initiatives in place and seeing what works in the first year, and then going forward, they're going to obviously tweak some things and add some sponsors and maybe some changes to the salary cap. We'll see how it goes. An interesting wrinkle is each team has a designated player, and so their salary does not count against the salary cap. And here in Vancouver, that player is Quinn.
Right. Designated player, like it. Okay.
These things are rarely a success overnight and need to be given time. You mentioned that they're not, necessarily expecting to make money initially as well. What are your hopes about what the NSL can do for the women's game in Canada generally?
Hopefully one day we have players playing in the league that are mainstays on the national team, and they're contributing at the highest level with Casey Stoney in charge. It's more of an opportunity for players to play in Canada and not have to go abroad. And so it starts with this league and giving them opportunities and seeing who can flourish and who can really excel, and maybe keeping players at home in Canada, and so they don't have to seek opportunities elsewhere.
You mentioned Casey Stoney there. Obviously been a big advocate for the Northern Super League. It'd be a worry as the national team manager if she wasn't supporting it. And she's actually already called up 2 NSL players, AFC's Emma Regan and Vancouver Rise's Samantha Chang for her first camp. And, she'll be, as you would expect, a regular attendee at games. How key can that be for the league, the link up between the domestic game and the international setup?
Yeah, it's integral because you want to have cohesion. You want to have your national team coach working maybe a little bit or overseeing or seeing what's happening with the teams. Casey Stoney is going to be here for the first match. Canada played Argentina here in Vancouver Island last week. So Emma Regan was playing for the national team. Samantha Chang, as you mentioned, was not on the roster. Quinn was part of the national team setup. So Casey Stoney is excited. We're going to see her evaluating players, and she'll have an opportunity to go to games and see who's going to fit into my national team, who's going to gel, and who's really excelling in the league. So it's a nice merge, and we're going to see what happens, and hopefully there's some bright spots there.
How are things at the moment in terms of the national team? Because it's been choppy waters lately. We've talked a lot on the pod whenever we mention Canada. We obviously mentioned Christine Sinclair, but of course we mentioned Spygate as well. We had the Canada soccer versus player argument and then Spygate at the Olympics in 2024, and it all seemed a little bit stressful. Is women's football in Canada in a better place now, would you say?
Yeah, it's in a much better place. Jessie Fleming was saying that Stoney's really brought professionalism. She's brought a new look, a fresh pair of eyes on what's happening, and a different voice, a different tactics. And I think the players really needed that. The trust was broken with the spy cheating scandal, and so they really want to put this behind the team, and they've done that. They were on a 23-match unbeaten streak until they lost to Argentina last week. And so Casey Stoney has come in and brought a no-nonsense approach. She doesn't really take any crap from anyone. She says it like it is, and the players really appreciate that. And so it's different, but I think it was well needed, and it's about time. And I think the national team players are turning the page on what happened. And, it's not really something that's being talked about here in Canada right now.
That is good to hear.
First game is kicking off on Wednesday. I imagine you'll be at BC Place. How much are you looking forward to it as someone who's been involved in the game for such a long time?
I'm excited to see what's going to happen and how the fans are going to be involved, what kind of ceremonies, who's going to score the first goal. It's just a lot of firsts, and we're going to be excited to see that. I'm excited to see just overall the league, and Toronto's going to have a game at BMO Field, and so it's a lot of exciting moments for Canadian fans, and having the game on TV here in Canada. So it's something you guys have obviously take for granted a little bit, having your league in your backyard, and so Canadians are just kind of getting on board to what the rest of the world's been doing for a while.
Yeah. Well, listen, we're really looking forward to seeing how it goes for you, and watching. For sure, and brilliant. You've got those broadcast rights. Looking forward to the first game. I hope it's a competitive one as well. But I really appreciate your time, Har, especially because it's so late in Vancouver at the minute. So whereas we're just starting our day, enjoy heading to bed. Not jealous at all.
Thank you so much for having me on. Great to see all of you.
Can we switch to Canada time now? Can we just go to bed?
That'd be really good. I'd love to do that. Canadian journalist Har Johal from Vancouver will be keeping an eye on that for sure. Suzy, just a bit of breaking news that's come to us actually this morning. The England women's senior team assistant coach Arjan Veurink is going to be leaving the Lionesses after Euro 2025 because he's been appointed Netherlands women's head coach, which is brilliant news for him. Big loss for the Lionesses and Sarina Wiegman. Obviously, the FA have put out a statement saying he's completely focused on the Lionesses' current Nations League campaign and that summer tournament in Switzerland. Of course, the Netherlands are also in England's group at the Euros. And he's been with the Lionesses since September 2021 when Sarina Wiegman took over and brought him with her. They've worked together since 2017 as well. How much of a miss will he be? What do you make of this news?
Oh, he's a huge miss. And it's going to be super interesting to see what Sarina Wiegman and Arjan Veurink look like separate from each other.
It's going to be weird, isn't it?
Such a dynamic duo. It's proper Batman and Robin stuff, except with Robin more like a second Batman, not a sort of inferior role in a way. In that, you speak to the players around England and you talk about kind of the coaching and Sarina, and most of them will praise Sarina and then in the same breath praise Arjan and his role and kind of his technical qualities in training and things like that, and his eye for the game. So yeah, it's going to be super interesting to see how they both work independently of each other. Obviously, they were, when they started coaching, both of them, they were coaching opposing sides in the Dutch women's leagues. That's how they sort of met and got to know each other. So they have been on opposite dugouts before. But yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see kind of what then happens for England. Obviously, Sarina is still signed on, so who comes in? And in a way, that's also quite an exciting thing because it gives an opportunity, potentially, hopefully, to, a successor and a bit of succession planning in terms of future England manager, and also, hopefully I would like to see, in an ideal world, it go to sort of a young English female manager that's sort of rising through the ranks and working with the under-23, something like that, one of the ones doing really good things at club game or in the international game currently. That would be a nice touch, but who knows what will happen.
I know,
but yeah, weird situation.
Very. It's just going to be odd not seeing them, whispering together on the bench or in the tunnel. But we wish him the very best of luck. Very well deserved head coach role for Arjan Veurink. Right, Suzy, it feels weird just saying goodbye to you.
Yeah, I know. It's very quiet. It feels very empty.
Everybody's left us. I will see you very soon.
See you soon.
Take care. See you all soon as well. Keep having your say by sending in your questions via social media or emailing us at womensfootballweekly@theguardian.com. And as ever, a reminder to sign up for our weekly women's football newsletter. All you need to do is search Moving the Goalposts. Sign up. The Guardian Women's Football Weekly is produced by Sophie Downey and Hattie Moyer. Music composition was by Laura Iredale. Our executive producer is Sal Ahmed.
This is The Guardian.